is interesting topic, which is Digital Operational Resilience Act. Everything you need to know about DORA. So this is something which we have been curiously waiting to do this, and let's get started. So I'll be the speaker for today. My name is Santosh Nandakumar. With over 18 years of industry experience, I've been doing a lot of implementation with respect to GRC, and also I'm a qualified CISA and CSIM, and also I mentor many infosec professionals, more than 1,000, I would say. So for more than 1,000, I have mentored for CISM and CIPM. In case if you are interested for any kind of CSM or CIPM mentoring, you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn. So I'll not waste much time over here. Let's get started quickly on the real topic. Let's get our basics right. Isn't that our basic rights? So let's get our basics first correct, our understanding, because we're going to use one terminology very common or very quite often, which is ICT. So I'm sure that everybody should be aware about information technology, which is IT. Everybody should be well aware about IS, information security. But what is this new terminology? No, it's not. It's old one, but very rarely used in a very common language. It's called information. No, let's see what is that. What is ICT? Okay, so we all know that we spell it like information and communication technology, or is it information communication technology? Actually, the right answer is it's information and communication technology. But if you read it just that, then you'll be focusing only on information technology and communication technology. While the definition speaks that information and communication technology, but while we have to interpret as information, comma, communication, comma, technology, that means we have to focus on all four, not just the technology part, information, communication, information technology, and communication technology. So ICT means information communication technology, and it's not just storage or technology. We focus on communication as well, how the information is communicated and stored in certain technology. Okay, so that's where we tell information and communication technology. But let's try to understand or interpret information comma communication comma technology. Oh my god, this is something really confusing. So can we get an example to explain in a very simple or layman terms? Yes, I'm here. So let's try to understand ICT with a plumbing analogy. Okay, so we know that we have a overhead tank. Every house do have a water tank. So these water tank or storage tanks, that's where the water is stored. Okay, so we call it an ICT as a storage device where the information is stored, or it can also be referred as information technology. Okay, so something where the information is stored. Now, can I you continue using that? No, it has to come to my other area, kitchen area. The water has to flow in for my daily household purpose. So I have to communicate from the overhead tank, which is kept at the top of your house, and the water has to flow in, and it has to be useful for you for any kind of cooking purpose at your kitchen area. So the water will flow through pipes. That is called communication technology. Okay, for example, your fiber, internet protocol, or VoIP. Okay, now the pipes are called as communication technology. While there is a water which flows inside those pipes, that is called information. So the standing water can be considered or equivalent to information or data which is stored like PDF file, or the flowing water can be considered as a data message or a voice which is in transit. So standing water or flowing water, both are same, but it's in a different form. Now it goes and reaches the kitchen area, and that's where we would call that recipients receive it. Now, if I have to put everything together, information which is stored water is stored using information technology, which is storage tank, and the communication, the flowing water reaches the recipient through the communication technology. So our interest is the first three boxes. So the storage tank, which is information technology, which needs to be protected, and the pipes, communication technology, which has to be protected, and the information, which is water, I need to protect that. So our focus, we keep on referring as ICT in the overall webinar. So DORA refers to ICT, doesn't talk about IT alone. It focuses on ICT also. Okay. What is DORA? So time to tell the truth. If I type Dora usually on YouTube, I always see that there is a cartoon coming up. I was like, okay, something interesting, but Dora is much more interesting than the cartoon. So how did this Dora come? Okay, why did this Dora come? Firstly, okay, let's try to understand that. So there was a financial crisis in 2007 or 2008, and that's where Basel III focused on financial stability of financial institutions. Okay, it was not just anything. It was just like some kind of instability was there in financial institutions. And at the same time, there were increasing number of cyber attacks and other information and communication technology breaches were happening. So once these breaches are happening, what will happen? The financial institutions cannot continue providing the necessary services. So the digital resilience was missing. So that's where they've understood that, okay, it's never too late. Let's focus on this. On 24th September 2020, the European Commission came up saying that let's announce a big package which involves digital finance strategy, legislative proposal on crypto assets, blockchain technology, and in that package, there was also uh, one more superstar, which is the digital operational resilience, came into picture. Like that's where DORA was derived. So they just not focused on DORA, to be very honest. In that package, they focused on how do we manage the legislative proposal on crypto assets, blockchain technology. And we're not going to talk about all those things, but we're going to just talk about the main aspect, DORA. Okay, this Digital Operational Resilience Act was also part of the digital finance package, which we designed. Why is this required? Okay, so this was pretty much focused on financial sector. DORA is only for financial sector, guys. If you're from a different sector, DORA might not apply to you. Okay, so it is designed to consolidate and mitigate ICT risks in the financial sector, because they were very much worried on the ICT risk, the information communication technology risk, and anything which is going to disrupt any financial institution which is very critical to European Union. And if they are providing any such services, and if they are getting disrupted because of a cyber attack, this is something which I'm least expected. That's where DORA focuses on protecting the financial sector institutions. Okay, so this legislation requires firms to ensure that they can withstand all types of ICT related disruption threats. So DORA is more about digital resiliency. Like that means no cyber attack should disrupt because of this any kind of cyber attack. So we do not focus more on other aspects like operational risk. We are focusing only on the cyber risk, which can disrupt any organization, any financial institutions, especially in European Union. I've given a link. You can just refer to the official link. You can look into it for more details. Okay. So when did this come? So European Commission published its draft in 2020, and then in 2022, the European Council adopted DORA on November 28th. Then they started development and they put DORA into force. They gave 2 years grace time for all the financial institutes in European Union to adopt it and implement in their financial institutions. Okay, so by 17th of January 2025, DORA should be implemented fully. Okay, so that's the catch over here, but still you have time, so you can still go ahead and look into the DORA Act. If it is applicable, please don't even hesitate. You do not have any leeway over here. You need to implement it. So the Digital Operational Resilience Act solves an important problem in the EU financial regulation. What was that? So before DORA, all the financial institutions, as I said, they were only focused on operational risk. Anything like allocation of capital, misuse of money, or anything like that, they were focused only on the operational risk. But they forgot about operational resilience. That means that if there is any cyber attack and if that server has gone down, we recently saw CrowdStrike also, how it could impact airports as well. People were writing in the flight tickets, the manual flight tickets, and they were handing it over there. That is what, if just imagine if that CrowdStrike event was not happened, or if it had happened like this fashion, like how many flights got cancelled, how many people were affected because of this. And luckily the airport might not be fully impacted, but there was certain impact to many such critical services like airport or airlines, where they had to stop operations for 1 or 2 hours or 3 hours. That is an inconvenience to the public. Okay, so this is something which they don't want to happen for financial institutions. They are very clear about it. Now they're not focusing just on operational risk, they want to focus on operational resilience. They don't want anything to go down. Okay, after DORA, they must uh, also follow rules for protection, detection, containment, recovery, and repair capabilities against ICT related incidents. So it's very simple, guys. Before, they were only focused on operational risk. Now they're focusing on cybersecurity risks also. And that's where DORA comes into picture and emphasizes more about information security and cybersecurity related incidents or risks. Okay, so DORA is very much a good topic for every infosec professional to keep a tap on it. So what is the objective of DORA? Again, as I said, reduce the risk associated with the financial sector and make them more resilient against digital risk or cybersecurity risks throughout EU. As simple as that. There are key three things which you need to remember. One, reduce the risk with the financial sector. This is very, very specific to financial sector. And second, it's what are those risks? Those are digital risks, which is nothing but cybersecurity risk. But it is focusing more on resilience. We have to be standing tall. We cannot let go anything go down. So that's what operational resilience we are referring to here. So why suddenly this DORA came into picture? Like after so many years, we are seeing this. Now, if you see, there is a lot of risk because of increasing interconnectivity in financial sector. And at the same time, lot of digital adoption is happening. And because of new digital adoption like AI and everything, the risk profile is increasing. And also there is a huge dependency on third parties. And there is no single and consistent supervisory approach. So keeping all these in mind, so the European Union, they thought that, okay, it's the right time right now. If not today, then when? So that's how DORA came into picture. Should I follow the legend? So who, why, when? So that's where we're going to solve this question. Okay. DORA focuses on protecting networks and information systems of financial entities. We have already discussed that. It's a European act, guys. This, you cannot tell that, no, I'm not going to follow, I'm not going to implement DORA. This will not impact. No. If you are working with a financial institute in the EU, then you have no other choice. You are forced to follow this, just like similar to the recently launched EU AI Act or GDPR. Both have huge penalties, and DORA is not far from those penalties. And that's where DORA is something which you cannot ignore. So at the same time, many of them asked me, Santosh, what is the difference between NIS2, which is also one of the new directive which has come into force, which is going to be applicable from October 2024. At the same time, DORA is also coming. What is the difference? I think it's very similar. No, it's not very similar. It's close enough. Okay. DORA is not just the major cybersecurity act which came into force. It's going to come in 2025. NIS2, Network and Information Security Directive 2. It's the newest version, which is going to be applicable from October 2024, also sets the digital security of companies. While if you see this, DORA is pretty much focusing on digital resilience for financial sector to withstand cyber attacks. While NIS2 is a directive, it's not an act. Okay. This is something which needs to be adopted by member states, and they need to implement digital security standards across the organization. But NIS2 is not just for financial, it's for energy, transportation, and healthcare. We call it as critical services. Okay. NIS2 is applicable beyond the financial sector also. So the difference is that DORA focuses purely on financial sector. NIS2 covers all critical sector. NIS2 is a directive. That means each member state must integrate into their national law. DORA is an act that applies to every member state. You cannot modify anything in DORA. You need to just follow it as a Bible. There are 50 plus articles in DORA, which I'm going to discuss about it in the near future. Everything is going to be applicable for that. So again, a few more details about the difference between NIS2 and DORA. So NIS2 is more broader. It focuses on different sectors, all the critical sectors, while DORA is purely financial sector, guys. And NIS2 focuses on supply chain more. That means the products and services are also considered into consideration, while DORA focuses on third-party tech provider majorly. Any company or a vendor who is providing services to these tech services to these financial institutes, they are also coming under radar. And predefined financial penalties, while DORA has sanction determined by member states. And in IS2, there is a security audit every 2 years, while there is an annual resilience test needs to be done by with respect to DORA, and on 3 years once you need to do a PT. And it's a directive. Directive is very different from regulation. We're going to discuss that in the next video. Directive implemented by member state, while regulation automatically applicable for EU wide. Okay, it covers all 18 sectors, while it covers financial institutions. That's a quick brief, the difference between NIS2 and DORA. I'm going to cover more in detail about NIS2 very shortly. Why DORA? Why not ISO? Is your next question. So Santosh, these controls, what I see is something very similar to ISO. Is it? No. So ISO is a standard which is applicable to any company, any organization. It is not mandatory for any organization to implement ISO, but you can do it as a good practice. But DORA is an act. You cannot escape from it. Okay. So previously, ICT risk requirements were scattered through different directives. So if you are based out of Europe, definitely if you're a financial entity, you would acknowledge this, saying that Santosh, there are a lot of requirements, different directives. It's too confusing. Which one I need to follow? Is it duplicates? There were multiple interpretation across countries, and it was high compliance cost. Now everything is going to be removed. Like now, the current regulations like EBA, ESMA, EIOPA, and the current ICT requirements from various directives, DORA considered and studied all of them, and they came up with one single common digital cyber operational risk resilient framework for financial sector. So now, before we used to refer to EBA, ESMA, now no more confusions, only one framework which you need to adopt for your financial entity. Who needs to comply with DORA? Am I under the radar? Let's quickly look into that. So we got you. DORA is applicable to regulated financial institutions, including their service provider operating in EU. So if you are a financial institution operating in EU, so I run a bank in India, does DORA apply to me? Not necessarily, until unless you're a service provider to any of those financial institutions working in Europe, like payment institutions, insurance, electronic money institutions, credit institutions, crypto asset service provider, and the list is pretty long. And if any of these company, if you are working under any of these uh, services provided, then you are under DORA. Okay. So DORA is an EU regulation, so it primarily applies to EU member states. Okay, so DORA applies to a wide range of financial institutes in entities involved in European Union financial system. If you operate in any capacity within the EU market, you need to comply with DORA. This includes financial institutions, insurance companies, and the investment firms. It's the same thing what we discussed in the previous slide. Now, the next question would be, okay, I'm a vendor or a service provider based out of India or China, and I am providing certain critical services to a financial entity in EU. Does DORA apply to me? Yes. So the impact can indirectly affect the service providers outside the EU if you are by mistake supporting the critical functions for a EU-based financial institution. So please do verify and validate with your legal team if you're providing any such services to a EU financial entity. So you will also have to implement DORA. There's no escape from that. So if you're providing any services like payment processing, cloud services, or core banking systems to any bank in EU or any financial institutions, like if you're a core banking system developer, like your company is developing CBS for one of the bank for one of the financial entity in Europe, in European Union, then you need to implement DORA as well. It applies to you, okay? Because why should I worry about because I'm just providing cloud services or I'm just providing payment processing services. As a vendor, why should I do it? Because if your organization disrupts, even the parent customer, which is a financial entity, they also get impacted. So that is why it is very important that any financial entity in European Union, including their providers, vendors, or third party who is providing certain critical services to them, they also are under the radar of DORA. So it's very good to confirm with your relevant regulatory authorities or legal expert to check if you are a critical provider or not. Okay. Are you ready for the game? So if you're a service provider, let's imagine you're a service provider based out of uh, probably like India, you should make some strategic decisions whether to take DORA by the ons. Like just think about it, because implementation of DORA comes with a cost. And is it really worthwhile for you to ensure that you're compliant with DORA? If you have just one customer, uh, is it something you need to do a cost benefit analysis and check should we continue providing any services because you're paying extra price to be part of this? You need to comply with DORA and you have no other choice. So it's very good to check with your legal team, check with your business, and if you are marked as critical provider for any of the European Union financial entity, so it's very important that you check with your business and see if you want to continue. If it is a small customer, I would tell that cancel the contract, because compliance with DORA comes with a huge cost. Because if the huge cost for compliance is more than the customer contract value, then what is the fun of continuing or doing a business with a financial entity? So I leave it to you. So if the business tells yes, we have to continue business with the financial entity in European Union, then you'll have to comply with DORA. So a long journey to success, you need to do a lot of things as part of DORA, which I'm going to cover, like various risk assessment, business impact assessment, resilience testing or attack simulation, incident response service, third party profiling, anything which you can understand that, okay, this might impact my resilience because of a risk or because of a security incident or because of any other reason. So you need to ensure that you have proper people process technology in place to ensure that there is no impact to the organization resilience. So let's break down DORA. It's not a breakup though, it's breakdown. Okay. So there are 5 pillars under DORA, which is very interesting. So the digital operational resilience encompasses 5 pillars, which is the first is risk management for your ICT, which is information communication technology. And second is third party risk management. Third is operational resilience testing, which is more about business impact assessment. And the fourth is incident response and recovery. And the last is information sharing on cyber threats. So looking at the articles, it's very similar to your GDPR. Even this is an act. So the first three articles under chapter 1 are general provisions, where it talks about the scoping, the definitions, all those things. Chapter 2 onwards, the section 1 will start, where we talk about the risk management. How do you run the risk management? Who will be the governance? How does the organization is set up? And then obviously, once you have a risk management program in place, now you need to define a framework, how you're going to do the risk management. So there are multiple frameworks, which I recall 27005 or ISO 31000 or Octave. It's up to you. Okay. So then it's more about how do you detect, protect, response and recovery, backup policies and recovery method, learning and evolving, communication, all these things. So chapter 2 from article 4 to article 14, which is approximately 10 articles, are focused on managing the risk for an organization. The entire life cycle of the risk management is taken care of here. So first is defining the risk management program. Second is performing the risk assessment. Third is doing risk treatment. The fourth is communication and monitoring of the risk. So that is essentially split into 10 articles under DORA chapter 2, which is ICT risk management. Chapter 3 talks about the ICT related incidents, like incident management. How do you report it? How do you have seen the SANS model, right? So for identify the incidents and once you identify, you need to ensure that those incidents are managed, contained, isolated, all those, the entire cycle of incident management. It's pretty much the same thing. While there is some specifications about the incident classification and management and reporting, the entire incident management life cycle. So chapter 3 talks about the overall incident management. So you will find 6 articles under this. And chapter 4 talks about digital operational resilience testing, where we perform the business impact assessment to understand what are the critical applications, assets, and technology infrastructure. And then we try to do have a BCP in place, and we keep on doing DR drills to understand that these are going good. So that's chapter 4, where we talk about 4 articles. I no, sorry, it's actually, yeah, 4 articles. Article 21 to 24 talks about digital operational resilience testing, which is nothing but business impact assessment. Chapter 5 talks about managing the third party risk. Like we know, without third party, we cannot survive. So it's very much essential to uh, govern the third party risk management. And chapter, the next is sorry, the third party itself, continuation, like how you manage the third party, who will be overseeing this, how do you do inspections, how do you do the oversight. It's more about that. And article 40 talks about information sharing, like on the cyber threat information and intelligence. It's more like a threat intelligence. These are the quick run through of articles. Now let's quickly understand each of these sections. The section 2 is ICT risk management. It talks about, I did discuss just now, it talks about having a need to define your ICT risk management strategy. And this is where you define your risk appetite. And basis on the risk appetite and the strategy, you come up with a risk management policy, you come up with a risk management framework, and you do a risk assessment. And based on the risk assessment and BIA, you implement controls. So obviously, you will consider all the threats and vulnerabilities. And then once you identify the risk which are above the risk appetite, you need to ensure the risk treatment is taken care. And anything beyond risk appetite, you're going to put controls. And anything we are not able to put controls, you're going to monitor them. So this is the overall ICT risk management. So incident management, again, the same thing which we discussed. We establish an incident response plan, implement incident detection and monitoring mechanism, implement incident response and mitigation procedures, conduct post-incident reviews and continuous improvement. Here, it's pretty much the same thing what we have noticed in the past in multiple standards and framework. There's nothing new over here, but there is more focus on the ICT, not just IT over here. The communication is also taken into consideration. The next is operational resilience testing. Establish a comprehensive testing program, employ a wide range of testing techniques, implement advanced threat-led penetration testing. So we call it TLPT. So it's more about vulnerability assessment, penetration testing to check that we are doing right or wrong. Are we ready for any kind of a disaster? We do always these kind of tests, but these are pretty much focused on the digital platform, nothing physical. And information sharing arrangement, like how do you intend to share, get information? It's all about educating yourself on the recent cyber threats and how you improve your current and existing process. Or like if your sim has to be updated with the new in the new threat intelligence, then you can go ahead and do it. So it focuses on your organization to be up to date with the global threats, what's currently happening, and you need to be up to date. And the last one is the third party risk management. As I said, we identify the critical ICT providers and we ensure that the entire security life cycle in the third party is considered. Like how do you onboard a vendor? What are the security clauses which you consider during onboarding? Whether are they addressed in the contracts? And do you ensure that technical safeguards are mentioned in the contract? And do you get any kind of assurance report like SOC 2 Type 2 or an IS 27001? All I'm doing is ensuring security in my third party also. And at the same time, it is not just one time during contract. You need to ensure that you're doing it throughout the life cycle of the vendor. And as I said, DORA as an audit. So audits are typically announced 4 weeks in advance. So there is no surprise audits. And they will do it for 3 year cycle. Audits focus on identification of risks and weaknesses, and it can be on-site inspections, it can be interviews, it can be document reviews. And if you're not able to provide any supporting evidence, but don't worry, you have 24 to 48 hours to do it. So usually if they come, the audit team will come full blown. They will they will come in a team size of 6 to 10 and they're gonna rip us apart if there is an audit happening. So they're gonna go very detailed and look at all the 5 pillars what we discussed and see how you're doing well in managing the digital operational resilience of your organization. And that's it, I think. So on that note, that's the end of the introduction to DORA. I'm going to cover much more in detail in the next webinar. So when we come up, I'm planning to do a detailed webinar on DORA. Like I'll pick up each and every control and see how it has to be implemented. What does it mean? All the 40 articles, what we discussed, we're going to discuss in detail, and we're going to look through each one of them. Post that, we are planning to launch NIS2 also webinar. So we are coming up with a huge list of webinars. Please stay tuned. We are available on YouTube, on LinkedIn. We do multiple free webinars, master classes, and crash courses. So if you're interested, please follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube, and we have a website also. Please follow Ministry of Security on all these channels. On that note, I take a sign off. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day ahead.